Hey folks, and welcome back to the channel. If this is your first time with us, my name is Alex. I'm that Hawaiian guy here helping you new investors build a stronger and safer portfolio. Typically on this channel, I like to make 2 videos every week. One video talking about any information that might be trending in social media right now, information that might be important to you when it comes to buying and selling in your portfolio. As well as we do make one video every week talking about my top stock picks, companies that I have on my radar for purchase that you might want to take a look at as well. In today's video, I really want to kind of dig in a little bit and talk about this current topic of inflation. Should you be buying more now that the market is dipping a little bit? Should you be holding because the market is dipping a little bit? Or should you be selling everything in your portfolio because the market is dipping a little bit? Alright guys, that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Let's get right into it. Alright guys, let's dive right into today's video. So today I want to talk about inflation. Should you be selling everything in your portfolio because inflation is coming? Should you be holding everything in your portfolio because inflation is coming? Or should you sell everything in your portfolio because inflation is coming? What should you do? Well, I can't tell you what to do with your personal finance, but me personally, of course, I would not be selling everything in my portfolio, pulling everything out and putting it in a traditional savings account. Because as I said many times before, a traditional savings account is only going to give you a half a point, maybe 1 point, maybe 1.5% interest in a traditional, even a high interest savings account, versus inflation annually is about 2%. So you can see there that you're losing from the get-go. So why would you pull all your money out and put it in a traditional savings account? We know, statistically speaking, that in a stock market, you're going to gain anywhere between 7 to 10% annually. There was actually a monkey about, I want to say 15 or 20 years ago, maybe back in the 90s. I don't remember his name. If you guys know, hit me in the comments, let me know. But they actually let a monkey choose maybe 10 or 15 stocks, and they followed those stocks over a time period. And that monkey actually got about a 16 to 18% growth over that time period. Is that monkey super smart, super intelligent? Should that monkey be working for Goldman Sachs? Of course not. Just statistically speaking, this organic tool, the stock market, you will do considerably better by putting your money in the market. Even if you're a goofball, you're still going to do better by putting your money in the market versus keeping your money in a traditional savings account. So in today's video, I want to talk about 3 different sectors you can actually kind of hedge against inflation, some areas you might want to look at in case you are worried about inflation, and what should you be doing with your portfolio. Now, before we get started, all of these guys out here screaming, inflation is going to hit, 5, 10, or whatever percentage, or with the housing bubble, houses that are going to lose 15, 20, 30% of their value, or the stock market's going to crash, or cryptocurrency is just over and done with. I mean, you can predict until you're blue in the face, but nobody knows the future. Nobody knows the future. And this just reminded me, as I'm watching like CNBC News and reading all this on Reddit and just watching all this stuff in social media where all these guys are making predictions of where the world is going to go, it just reminded me of that Nostradamus kind of deal. And if you're not familiar with him, he was the French guy back in the early 1500s. He only lived about 50, 60 years, but during his time period, I think he was a philosopher, a physician, but he wrote a book of predictions. And in that book, he had about 930, 940 predictions about what's going to come in coming years. And a lot of people look at Nostradamus' predictions and say what he was talking about back in the 1500s are very applicable, or he was talking about events that happen in current day. Now, I want to read a couple to you, and I want you to tell me, do you think this is what he was really talking about, or do you think he was just talking about something that was going on in his surroundings and making an educated guess? I'm going to try to read it verbatim, word for word, so it is kind of that old English, so kind of stay with me for it. From the depths of the west of Europe, a young child would be born of poor people. Okay? He who beat his tongue will seduce a great troop. His fame will increase towards the realm of the east. So, somebody, probably some scholar, read this from Nostradamus' Book of Prediction, which was published back 1540, 1550, and said that he is talking about, you got it, Hitler. Word? Hitler? I mean, I read this, a guy from west of Europe who seduces many troops with his tongue, increased towards the realm of the East. And what I'm thinking about was my rugby coach back in college. Or actually, a couple guys who live on my street kind of fit this profile to a T. So, how are you allocating this to Hitler? You could take any kind of information out the world and kind of fit your view. I mean, these are just kind of open-ended words that anyone can say, oh, he was talking about this, or oh, he was talking about that. I don't know. I don't know the guy, but I'm kind of saying he probably wasn't talking about Hitler. But take a listen to the second one. Tell me what you think. Near the gates and within 2 cities there will be scourges the like of which was never seen. Famine within plague, people put out by steel, crying to the great immortal gods for relief. What do you think he was talking about here? If you said Nagasaki and the atomic bomb, you would be right. Word? Nagasaki? No, I do have to say, back in the 1500s, the Dutch actually were making their way over to Japan, and Nagasaki was the only place that the foreigners were allowed to enter Japan. That was the only port in all of Japan. Nagasaki was the only place you were allowed to enter. And this was around the time period where Europeans were actually going to Japan. So perhaps Nostradamus had a buddy, or maybe he went over there himself, went over to Japan, chatted up with the Japanese people in Nagasaki. So maybe he had some insight to what was going on. Do I think that's what the case is? No. Do I think somebody just read this and said, ooh, it sounds like Nagasaki, atomic bomb? That's what I think happened here, but who knows? My point is, nobody knows the future. So if you are concerned with inflation, because inflation is definitely coming, what can you do to hedge against inflation? So that's what I want to talk about today. So in the 3 sectors I'm going to talk about, 2 I do invest in and 1 I do not. And the 1 sector that I do not invest in, it has nothing to do with it being a bad sector. Like I've said many times, I invest in what I know, I invest in what I like, and I invest in things that I have confidence that would do well. You do not have to be invested in every sector, in every company to have a solid, well-built portfolio. Invest in what you like. And the first sector I'm talking about is gold. Now for me, every time I think of gold, I think of Kentucky, the Fort Knox in Kentucky, or Tutankhamun's burial ground, where he just comes out with massive amounts of gold, or maybe Mr. T or something. I know that's just me being crazy, but me personally, I do not like gold. But if that is something that you're interested in, you're thinking of purchasing gold, one particular company that a lot of pros out there like is Brink Corp, ticker BCO on the New York Stock Exchange. When I checked this morning, they were trading about $77.18, and over the last 2 quarters, they have gained about 3.45%. So they have had a little bit of growth, not too bad. So if you are light on the gold, or you have no gold in your portfolio and you are concerned about inflation, gold is definitely one of those currencies that a lot of individuals think it can be an alternative to a lot of country currency, particularly if that country's currency is maybe low. A lot of people believe that gold is definitely one of the areas you might want to invest in. And the second sector you might want to take a look at, which is this sector is one I invest quite heavily in, is commodities. And if you're not familiar with commodities, they're basically a broad category that includes like grains and precious metals, electricity, oil, beef, orange juice, natural gas, foreign currencies, some like financial instruments, things of that nature. So it's kind of encompassing everything. But commodities actually are really great hedges for inflation. And I've talked on this channel quite often about companies like Chevron. I actually really do like Chevron. Exxon oil, as well as BP, does quite well. But also another, like when we talk about precious metals, what's that one company like US Steel might be another company you might want to take a look at. But anything in that, any type of commodity in that particular area are really great hedges for inflation. You might definitely want to take a look at that. Now the last one, I've said many times before, I've actually invested in this sector because, like you, I do try to be proactive with my portfolio, but I really don't like to invest in real estate. Even though I do own a home in Japan, I did not buy that for investment. And if you know anything about the real estate in Japan, even though I spent almost $250,000, about $250,000 on that home in Japan, the current value of that house, if I tried to sell it, would probably be worth less than $80,000. Because in Japan, when you purchase a house, I think my interest rate was like 0.87 or 0.88. The home has no value after you purchase it. So I did not purchase that property in Japan for investment. I personally, I don't mind renting because I like to move a lot. I'm in Canada right now, but my future, I really want to move to Portugal. So if you're the type of mobile person that you might be in this country for a couple of years, in this country for a couple of years, investing might not be the bet for you. All that being said, if you are looking to hedge against inflation, one particular sector would be real estate investment trust. And if you're not familiar with that, basically it's REITs. And what REITs are, it's these large companies who go out and purchase like shopping centers or apartment buildings, and they rent out to different individuals. Typically during an inflationary period, REITs do quite well, which is the only reason I allocated, I want to say about 2.76% of my portfolio to REITs. But for the most part, this is not a sector that I particularly like. I don't really like real estate, but there is times where even if you're not super comfortable with a particular sector, it might behoove you to actually check it out because sometimes they do have some really great. And a couple companies you might want to take a look at, maybe like American Tower, ticker on the New York Stock Exchange is AMT, or maybe Crown Castle, ticker is CCI, or you might even want to take a look at Simon Properties Group, which is ticker SPG. Again, I'm not telling you to go out and buy these REITs. I'm just giving you kind of food for thought that three different sectors that might kind of hedge against inflation. So today we talked about gold, we talked about commodities, and we talked about REITs. So those real estate investment type companies. So if you are concerned with inflation and where your portfolio is situated now, perhaps take a look at those three sectors. It might be able to help you out a bit. If you found this information useful, like always, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, leave me some comments. I really want to know what you think. Maybe you might have some companies that I might want to keep on my radar as well. And until the next time we meet, aloha.